Hello everyone and welcome to another Mondays with Michele video. This week's topic, Ireland's land valuation records. We'll talk about the Griffiths Valuation, what it is, and where to access both the valuation information and the maps. We'll discuss some of the challenges with these records and demonstrate how to locate your ancestor's property. Let's get started. We've spent a few weeks talking about local taxation records and tithe records. So what I wanted to do today was talk about those valuation or tithe records for Ireland. And certainly one of the most well-known valuations is called the Griffiths Valuation, and it was basically named for the particular individual who was appointed in charge of the valuation process in, I believe it was the 1820s, 1830s. He rose through the ranks and ended up coordinating the major valuation of all of the tenants and lands. And there were actually several sets of valuation. The one that we refer to as Griffiths Valuation, they call it the primary valuation. And it was done from roughly 1847. I think they finished 1863. So something to bear in mind, unlike a census, this was not a valuation done of the whole country at one particular point in time. They did the surveys of various counties at different points. So you can end up having some interesting discrepancies or apparent discrepancies in records if your ancestors were moving around, depending on where they were when the valuation of that particular county occurred. So we'll talk first about the Ask About Ireland website, which is the one that you're looking at now. They do have this information page on what the Griffiths valuation is all about. There is also an information page on how to use the valuation and maps. And you'll notice on this particular website, if I just turn my spotlight on, they have a little table of contents on the right here. So we're in this, what is Griffiths Valuation, using the valuation and maps. So there's some good information on here. Now, the main thing for Griffiths Valuation, this is probably the most popular website to look at for free access to the Griffiths Valuation records. This website does have both the detail pages showing the names of the tenants, their plot number, the rent or tax information. It also has a series of maps that are linked to the valuation data so that you can get that visual picture of where your ancestor's property was. So the process is basically you can type in a surname and then just click search. Or if you prefer, you could type the surname in here and then select a county and even a parish. I just did a surname search on Renton, click search, and ended up with this screen here. So you'll see I've got 6 results. Let me just enlarge the page a bit. So I've got 6 results and there are a number of different symbols. We've got a details column, we've got original page, and we've got map views. So details is giving me a transcript of the entry for this individual, for the information that is on the actual valuation page. That's what the original page column is. So if I was to click, you'll notice I've got 2 entries for the parish of Kilmore in County Down. We've got James Renton and John Renton. And those are the 2 I explored to see if I could find where they were on the actual maps. So if I was to click the details for James Renton, this is the screen that comes up. And when you look at the valuation record information, the key piece of information you want is the townland, because the townland maps are how you will find their particular property. So his townland is Drumnaconacher. The other piece of information you need to write down is the map reference number. This is the plot number. So the plot number is 47. And for John Renton, when I clicked on his entry, he's in a different townland, still the same parish, still the same county. They're both Kilmore Parish, but he is in this particular townland. And map reference 4. So I wrote down those 2 pieces of information. And after I'd clicked on these items to show those detail screens, I then clicked on the original page, and it doesn't matter whether I click on this one or this one, because as it happens, James and John are both listed on the same page. And here is the page image, and I'll just enlarge it. So here is James Renton. You see there's the plot number 47, and you notice there's a lowercase f. So he's in 47F. And what was interesting was if you look at the details, if we go across here, it says he has a house and forge. And if I scroll down just a little bit on this page, you'll see here's the other townland that his brother was in, or the other relative was in. There's the other person, John Renton, plot 4. And the description is house, offices, and land. So what I decided to do next was click on the map. And this is what I got. So if I just go back for a minute. So when you click on James Renton, and I click here to bring up the map in a new window. So here is the map, and I positioned it just so that you can see both properties. So if I zoom this up a bit, let me just bring it over. This area right here, this little F, that is where James Renton's forge would be. And if I just drag the map up, so this is part of the challenge, is locating the particular townland. So these dark red borders are the borders of each of the townlands. And this is part of Kilmore Parish. So if I go to the right here, you can see there's the L, the M. I'm zoomed in, so it's hard to see, but this is all of Kilmore Parish. And what we were looking at up here in the corner is the part of Drumconnogher where James Renton lives. And just above it, above and to the left, this is Raleigh, or however they pronounce that, Raleagh. That's the townland where the brother lived. And his property was number 4 up here. Now, what's nice, I brought up a bigger version of the map. What I really like about this website, when you come to the map and you zoom in, there's this slider at the top. If I have it all the way over to the right, it is the historical map. So here's James Renton. Here is John Renton. And you can slide it part way so that you can start to see what it looks like as you bring it closer to a modern map. So one of the ways I was able to identify where John Renton's property was, I could see it was Crossgar Road, and it was the other side of Crossgar Road, kind of directly opposite where YNS fencing is. And sure enough, if I scroll back, there's the property. So being able to have that modern map overlaid is kind of nice. And if we take a minute and look at where James Renton and his forge were, this is Green Lane Road. This is Raleigh Road. There's this other road here that's not marked, and then the forge is kind of off from that. So watch what happens when I looked at a satellite view. Here's Green Lane Road. Here's Raleigh Road. There's that other unmarked road that parallels Green Lane. This, I believe, would be where his original forge would have been. So whether this is still the original building or not, it's hard to say, but it would have been somewhere in this area based on that historical map overlaid to the modern one. And I did a Google Street View. This is the row of buildings, or the large building where I suspect his forge would have been. And I moved a little bit further northeast. You see, here's Green Lane. Now we're on Crossgar Road, where the other ancestor lived. Here's that YNS fencing. This area right here would be where lot 4 for John Renton would be. And unfortunately, there wasn't a Google Street View that was useful of that. But again, it's nice to be able to get some idea. So the other item I wanted to point out that I did discover, this website, Ask About Ireland, also does have some directories, Tom's directories. So if you type in Renton and click search, and it will probably take a minute, and it will give you all the results and the years, and you can view those pages to see the entries. So I wanted to point that out. Most of these directories are, I would say, the late 1800s all the way up to late 1900s. I found some directories from the 1970s. So that's a useful tool just to know about. Now, another website that has, in my opinion, really useful background information about the Griffiths Valuation is this John Grenham website. And he points out a lot of the challenges of working with the valuations and letting you know what is available online. So, something to note, he does say that Find My Past has the full set of Griffiths Valuation transcripts and the related black and white image maps. These are the image maps that were done as a project in 2009. Or sorry, in the early 2000s, this company, Enaclan, did a project and they created the most complete set of Griffiths Valuation. So Find My Past does have those maps and the transcripts. Now, Ancestry has a different transcript and they do not have the maps. So you will still find, if you search on Ancestry as I did, I got the same name results, but you do not have the option to look at the maps. I found on Find My Past, they do not have the maps for Northern Ireland, which unfortunately was the area that I was searching in. Now, one of the issues with the Ask Ireland website is the maps they are using are not the original valuation maps used in the survey. They decided to digitize a later set of maps from the 1870s, 1880s, because they were full color maps, and they used those as the linked overlay. So as a result, you'll find in some cases, the boundaries are not quite correct. So if you are finding you're having issues trying to figure out where places are, because also place names might have changed, you may find going to a site like Find My Past, which is using the original black and white maps, might clear up some of the confusion. I think the reason why the Ask About Ireland site use the color maps is because the black and white maps, although certainly they would have the closest tie-in to the actual valuation pages, they were not all in really good condition. So the quality of the images was not great in some cases. If you have an ancestor with a common surname, let's say Riley, one of the advantages to the valuation records is they will show the father's name or sometimes the occupation in brackets. So it might say James Riley, bracket, Michael, which would mean James, son of Michael, or James Riley, ironmonger. That would be the James Riley who's an ironmonger in that parish. So you may find that these valuation records help you straighten out which person was living in which area of the parish, just based on those clues from the valuation records. Now, there's this link here to civil parish place names. So one thing you can do from the John Grenham website, if you're finding it's difficult to locate from the maps on the Ask About Ireland website, you can also go in through this John Grenham website. So if you were to click this civil index places, you would come to, and let me just go back, you would come to this parish map. So for the research I was doing, I was looking at County Down. So I click on that area of the map, and it shows me all the parishes in County Down. And I could click on a particular parish, or I can look at a list. And I want Kilmore Parish. And there it is. And again, it now gives me a map of Kilmore Parish. It shows where it is in relation to all the other parishes. And I can click on places in Kilmore. And this is where, here is my Drumnaconacher, and the other place name was this Raleigh. So if I click on Drumnaconacher, it actually brings me to a screen where I can go directly to the map view, or I could even look to see a list of all of the occupants in Drumnaconacher and scroll through them. So there's different ways you can access the information. My point is, through his clickable parish map, you can get directly to this Ask About Ireland website, because John Grenham has linked his parish place names index into these maps. So that's kind of a handy tool. And he has done a video showing how to use the website in order to get to your valuation map for your ancestors. So I will have a link to that video. You may find it helpful. The other information he's got on this website, he talks about the earlier valuations. So before what's called the Griffiths Valuation, the primary valuation, there were some earlier valuations when they first put some of these tithe laws in place. And those records are available, but they are not comprehensive. So this page talks about some of those earlier records, and it talks about the fact that not everyone was happy with the tithes. So there was what they called the tithe war, where a number of people refused to pay tithes. And in fact, the list of the people who refused to pay tithes is on the Find My Past website. So you might find that you will find your ancestors listed in those who didn't pay the tithes. The issue with the early valuations, if you are using them, they are not comprehensive. So they exempted certain types of land, for instance. So one of the reasons why a lot of people protested the tithes was because of the different exemptions. It meant that in reality, all of the poor people were paying tithes. Some of the wealthier people were not, because their land was exempted. So they did not even appear in some cases in the records. So just because your ancestor is not listed in the records doesn't mean they weren't actually tenants or didn't own land. It could be that the land they were on was exempted for some reason. So this particular page gives a lot of background information on that. There's also information on his website about the valuation in general. There's information again about the online records. I showed you the civil parish map. There are also some estate records as the land changed hands. So there's some information on that, and some of those records were originally put on Find My Past, but they are also now on Ancestry. So if you have subscriptions to those websites, you'll be able to access these landed estate court records. And this website also has a really useful page of further links. So what we've been talking about falls under property records. And I like the way he refers to the National Archives of Ireland. He says they have the flawed transcripts of those early tithe records, and they have a flawed index of the valuation books that were used to prepare the Griffiths Valuation. So there's some useful links here. The Valuation Records Research Guide is on the Northern Ireland website, and this is the guide, and it talks about what's available for Northern Ireland. And just to show you, I searched Griffiths Valuation for Renton, and the results are the same as what I showed you on the Ask Ireland website, but the images are the images of the valuation page. There are no map images here. When I did the same thing on Find My Past, again, I get the same results, and the images for this also are for the valuation page. If we look at the Find My Past, this was the tithe defaulters, but if I was to search for Griffiths Valuation, and if I wanted to look at the maps and the plans and click on that, if you scroll down, it does mention that unfortunately the maps for Northern Ireland are not available, but otherwise they do have the map images available for most of the other areas. So this is it. We don't have maps, only transcripts of Northern Ireland. And County Down was one of the counties I was looking at. So that's why there's no map images for those Renton entries. Now, another website I looked at was National Archives of Ireland. This one is great because it gave a lot more information on those early valuations. So this gives a whole breakdown of the types of documents that were produced that they used to create the valuation records. So we've got links to their information. When I did a name search, it came up with just the one entry. So again, they referred to the National Archives of Ireland website as having a flawed index, whether that's the reason why only one entry showed up, or whether it's because this is actually a different valuation. Hard to say. but there are a lot of detail pages, a lot of information pages talking about each of these types of records and what they can provide. So those of you who have ancestors in Ireland, it's a good idea to look at that information. And I wanted to see what Family Search would have. They have the valuation books. You can search them online. I looked at some of the related images, and if I enlarge this page, this is the exact same image that I saw on some of the other websites. And this is James Renton, a house, and this is one of the Tipperary Greenmount. This was the same image that we saw on the National Archives of Ireland site, the one that had the flawed transcript. And when I searched on Griffiths Valuation, I got all of these links. It's broken down mostly by county. I hope you enjoyed this week's video. Don't forget to download the handout. You'll find the links in the video description at the bottom of your screen. You may need to click Show More to see the handout links. Thanks for watching.